Hey, and welcome to Weird Ass Movies. I'm Harvey Timmons.
And I'm Rumplestiltskin. That's right, the guy from the fairy tales.
Yeah, that's right, the guy from the fairy tales. And that's what we're talking about today. Him. We're doing a movie based on this guy's life right here. We're doing Rumplestiltskin from 1995. It's a horror film, kinda, I guess. Yeah, it's a horror film. I mean, it's definitely, in the genre. And
it's kind of a horror comedy in some ways, but yeah, we can get into that
in many
later.
ways. Yes, it's not a serious scare fest. It is definitely more a tongue in cheek, and it follows the story of Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, and I wanted to watch this just because it's about me. It's kind of like what it would be like if Bob Dylan went to see a complete unknown and he's sitting there watching Timmy Chalamet act like him. That's kind of how I felt. So I want to talk about my feelings.
Would that be a swelling sense of pride for a surrogate, son kind of a vibe, or is it? That's what I imagine. Bob Dylan's up there and he's like, "You're the son I never had. Don't mention Jacob. You're the son I never had."
That's great. That's a good impression.
Does that sound like Bob Dylan?
Yes, it sounds exactly like him. But yes,
I guess I was missing.
I'll talk about my feelings.
His cadence, but
I'll talk about my feelings when we get into it.
Never had. Is that better?
That's really good. But before we talk about the movie, seeing as how this is a horror comedy, I have a question for you. This is our little icebreaker film nerd talk.
Icebreaker! I love icebreakers.
All right, and I'm asking you, Harvey Timmons, what is your favorite horror comedy?
Oh my goodness! You should have told me about this before. I would have had time to think it over. And I'm just gonna start listing things because I need to shake it loose. I need to shake.
That's fine. No,
I want to hear work out the cobwebs. Okay,
yeah,
so
this is good.
I mean, let's see. Maybe the first horror comedy I ever watched was Jack Frost, which is about a snowman, and it's not the best. I'm not gonna say that's my favorite. But then I got into the Evil Deads. Evil Dead 2, probably one of the best. But at the same time, soon after I was watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I loved that. I thought that was my favorite movie for a while. So this is really difficult. Man, here's the thing about horror comedies. I guess a lot of them kind of suck.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, the ones that are trying to be funny and whatever else, they're really rough. But then at the same time, Evil Dead is trying to be funny and it works. So what is it about that? Is it the gumption? Is it a mix of kind of, hammy acting that, I mean, are they trying to make something funny bad in that?
I think it's all about execution. You know what I mean? It's about committing to stupid ideas with kind of a serious face.
Yeah.
That's what it is for me. I think that's where the line is drawn. Like if I'm watching something, like there are a lot of asylum movies and a lot of trauma movies that I find very hard to watch.
I'm not talking about any of those.
That's what I'm talking about though, is like those movies, it's like people are making goofy faces. They're saying stupid things on purpose. I think the key is to commit to a very stupid idea with the utmost sincerity. And I think that like a lot of these horror comedies do that really well,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so
but you got to pick one just for the sake of the
one.
podcast.
Okay. I'm having trouble. This is too hard.
Do you want me to go? Do you need more time to think?
Dead Alive. No. De La Bestia. Maybe that one. I don't know.
Okay.
This is
Tell me
too
about
hard.
that one. I don't know about that one.
You don't know about Dia de la Bestia? It's a Spanish movie by Alex Iglesias. Is that his name?
Oh, the 30 Coins guy.
Yeah, the 30 Coins guy. Yeah,
that's right.
And it's about a priest who finds out that the apocalypse is coming, and in order to figure out where the devil is going to appear, he has to turn bad. So he's like going around doing all sorts of terrible stuff, stealing things and whatever else. And then eventually he teams up with this metalhead guy and a TV show host who does like supernatural TV show stuff. And they summon the devil, and there's like a gang of evil satanic bikers in it. It's a lot of fun. I would say check that out. That's one of my faves. You know, it's got a lot of cool moments, cool special effects, and I just like the team up. You know, I like the priest. I like the TV show host. I don't know. There's something about it that's just like everything's right up my alley.
All right, well, we're locking it in. Your favorite horror comedy as of today is Dia de la Bestiality.
Oh, it feels bad. I'm so bad at favorites. I can't handle it.
Look, it's not that serious.
It is.
But it's ultra serious.
This is very important. The most serious thing I've ever done. So,
I have a gun to my head, too. I didn't think about my answer.
Through it. Yeah, what's yours?
Yeah. You know, I have to say one of the movies I've watched the most, and I don't stand by 100% of the content in this. It's a little problematic because it's Italian, but I love Della Morte dell'Amore, which is known in the United States as Cemetery Man, directed by Michael Soavi. I might be saying his name wrong, but it also stars Rupert Everett in a really fun role, and it's about a guy who's just living in the graveyard, and zombies come back to life sometimes, and he's just been quietly putting them down. It's like his little personal problem. No one needs to know about it. He's been killing the dead because they keep coming back. And he has this disgusting guy that he lives with named Nagi. But it's a very pervy movie, and it's very weird. But it's like one of the last great like Italian horror movies that has that giallo-style visual flourish and stuff. Like, I just love it, and I think it's really funny. And the ending is such a hilarious mindfuck. I recommend it, but yeah, like buckle up because it's a little problematic in a couple places. So, you know, if you're gonna watch it, like just be prepared for that. But it's a good time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of older horror films are gonna have issues, especially foreign ones. What can you do? You know, you just gotta accept it for what it is and go, hey, I don't think that's okay. But at some point in time, people were cool with that, I guess.
There's also, you know, there's a kind of a point to it. Like when you get to the end of the movie, some of the things that are objectionable, like you see it in a different light a little bit. So yeah, without talking too much about that movie, I recommend it. It's a beautiful film, and it's very gross and very funny and very like, I don't know, some of the zombie stuff in that. I'm not a big zombie guy, but I like what they do with zombies in that movie quite a bit. So
zombies could get a little tiresome sometimes, but you know, there's some good ones. There's like every genre, you know, a few that really pop.
But have you seen a zombie drive a motorcycle out of a grave before? That's the kind of thing that Cemetery Man does.
That's what you're signing up for with Cemetery Man. I got to rewatch this movie. It's been a little while, so I'll check it out. I'll give it a second look.
Yeah.
I remember liking it.
It's an interesting film. Yeah, it's definitely crazy. But yeah, okay. So we've kind of talked about our comedy horror history. I had a similar entryway into it. You know, for me, I think like Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2, that kind of stuff. I remember renting those videos quite a bit when I came to your world. Army of Darkness
is great. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like more of a full-on comedy, but it's still got a little bit of the horror in there. Yeah, but so the movie we're talking about today is Rumplestiltskin from 1995, and a little background before we watch the trailer. It was directed by the guy who created The Leprechaun. Yeah, you know, the Leprechaun movies. Everybody loved those. Movies.
What's sure.
That guy's name?
They're very
Mark Jones.
Forgettable. But
and the director's name is forgettable. Mark Jones. That's just such a normal name.
Which the Leprechaun movies, if you don't know about them, it's like slasher film with a leprechaun trying to get his gold. Right? Isn't that it?
Warwick Davis, Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston, right, in the first Leprechaun.
That's right.
Yeah, they're not super memorable. I think I've seen like 4 of them, and I couldn't tell you anything. One of them, you know, they famously kind of get wackier in the later sequels in a way that is absurd. That one of them goes to the Hood. It's Leprechaun in
He does go to the Hood.
And then another one is Leprechaun in Space, which the Jason movies followed suit shortly after with Jason X.
Oh, were they first?
Maybe they were
was the Leprechaun first?
I think so. I might have the timeline a little off, but I think that they were doing that stuff with Leprechaun before Jason X ever came out.
I guess that's true. You know, it's kind of funny to imagine like a world of horror spies, like where there's people like, they're sending the leprechauns to space. He's telling the Jason people that for like a little bit of money on the side. Maybe that's a fun idea for a movie or something.
Some corporate espionage in the world of crappy horror movies.
Yes, exactly. The Leprechaun did go to space in 1997, which I think definitely beats Jason. So,
because Jason was got to be like, I don't know, 2002?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
We gotta watch that at some point too.
I'm criminally underwatched with the Jason movies, so
it's like if Jason showed up in the crappiest version of Star Trek. Basically.
I like it. I'd like to watch the crappiest version of Star Trek even without Jason. So
they even
I'm
have like a
already.
holodeck and stuff.
Oh, they do. That's great. Yeah, okay, well that's cool. But Mark Jones, the guy who created this, they wanted him, I guess, to do the sequel. I'm not an expert on this, but what I kind of read or figured out from online is that he didn't want to do Leprechaun 2. He wanted to do another fairy tale horror thing, something like this. I see.
He was I've been there, done that. What other short creatures of fantasy can we mine?
Yes, and so that is what gave birth to 1995's classic Rumpelstiltskin.
Through the ages, a myth is told of an evil creature that feeds on the souls of children. And the only way to destroy him
kill the little monster
is to call out his name.
Rumpelstiltskin. You know my name.
But what was once a fairy tale has now come true. Transformed by an ancient spell, he has come from the past.
Who are you?
To bring his curse upon the present. And now he must steal a newborn child, that his evil may live forever.
And no, that's not Andy Samberg.
Yes,
it's not. The Electro zombies
are fairy tale.
Are heavily featured in this, and they only
we gotta
show
get
up,
to that.
They only show up for like a second in there. It doesn't even make any sense.
That part is incredibly baffling. A few little factoids about this, though. It stars Max Grodenchik. Am I saying his name right? Max
sounds about right. He's from Deep Space Nine. He plays Rom, which is a Ferengi.
Yes, Quark's brother.
If you remember those characters,
he's the
you're nerdy enough to know about it.
Yeah, he's the slapstick, wacky brother of Quark on Deep Space Nine. Really hams it up on that show, and he's hamming it up here too. He kind of seems like a hammy guy. I think
he does a pretty good job. Here's the thing, there's, I guess it's a character that can take a lot of absurdity. It can be pushed. No offense or anything.
What's absurd about Rumpelstiltskin?
Well, he's sort of a hobbling goblin in this film, so I think they did a pretty good job with the casting on it. I don't know what more you could ask for, really, from a horror Rumpelstiltskin actor.
I mean, he's all right. It's like I don't hate him. I don't think the things that are wrong with this movie are this guy's fault. It is kind of funny though that they have him hobbling around, like he's always like on his bent knees walking, and it looks very silly.
Like a little person, they have him squatting the whole time, which must have been really difficult.
Yeah, his glutes must have been like rock hard by the end of the shoot.
Yeah, it sounds miserable to me.
Yeah, well, I read on the IMDb in the trivia section that the concept that they were going with was that his hump, because he has a hunchback, his hump was so heavy that it forced him to like walk low to the ground. So that's what they went with. Yes, his hump was so huge.
Why did they even need the logic? Like, who's criticizing? Who's going to the movie and they're going like, I don't know, I think he could have stood up.
Hey, you know how it is. When you're in a movie, you're in it. You're coming up with all these like backstories. You're like,
Yeah.
Things can get a little crazy when you're making a movie. So,
well, I thought he did an okay job as the
right.
Rumplestiltskin guy.
Yeah. Anyway, he's in it. And another weird thing about this movie is that it's produced and co-written by Joe Ruby and I forgot. And Ken Spears, the creators of Scooby-Doo. And they had their own animation studio, Ruby Spears, which made a lot of shows like Mega Man, et cetera, et cetera. They made tons of cartoons in the 80s. So this movie was co-written by Joe Ruby from that duo. So this has some Scooby-Doo like prestige, a little bit of Doo DNA, if you will. It's kind of interesting to
I don't know if I would call it prestige. Scooby-Doo prestige? Like what?
Oh, it's like, a national totem. It's a huge part of pop culture. It
is, I guess so.
It's unavoidable.
I guess you're right.
If you were watching a horror movie and the creator of the Brady Bunch co-wrote it, you'd be kind of like, whoa, why is the creator of the Brady Bunch
writing a
Brady Bunch
horror movie sounds kind of fun, actually.
Oh, that would be good. I'd actually watch that. Yeah.
I think Alice is the killer.
Oh, well, you just spoiled it. Now I don't want to see it.
I mean, I don't know. It hasn't been made yet, but that's what I would do. If it was a new movie. Her boyfriend's a butcher, so they can hide the bodies in the meat locker. It's perfect.
Well, if it was a new movie, they'd give away that twist in the trailer, and you'd have to like lower your head when you go to the theater.
Yeah, and if it was a movie from the 90s, they'd put them all on motorcycles with Ray-Ban sunglasses or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oakley's.
This movie, I don't know about you, Harvey, but this was a real ride for me. This movie is bizarre. It's got different sections that feel like totally different movies. It's almost like a Russian nesting doll of many different bad movies stacked within or hidden within each one,
Yeah, I mean, it feels like one of those movies where they just sat around and they're like, whoa, wouldn't it be cool if... And then they just put anything they thought was totally rad in the movie. Like, it starts off and you have actually a pretty good opening, like, period piece with Rumpelstiltskin being chased by a mob, and then they set him on fire. And the firework in this movie is pretty incredible. Like,
really good.
It's like the stunt people are totally engulfed in flames with like flames above their head 5 feet. I mean, it's kind of concerning, truthfully, when you watch it. Yeah. Like, please, no, put them out. The shot doesn't need to be this long.
This movie isn't worth dying over.
No, but it starts off kind of cool, and then
although it
like
is
an
funny
old
that
witch kind of curses Rumpelstiltskin. He turns into a little Rumpelstiltskin rock. They throw him into the sea, and then it's like a totally different movie immediately. Yeah. It's like a cop movie or something. It's these two cops hanging out in their squad car, and they notice someone is getting carjacked, and there's a baby in the car.
Oh, wait. We left out a couple of things about the cops. Like, you think you're meeting your protagonists here, though. The way they introduce them, it's like you see them in the squad car. You're getting to know the guy's partner. He's like, how can you listen to this rap stuff? I don't know. I'm cool. I'm a cool cop. They're like, yeah,
it does feel like you're getting into
your protagonists.
A Lethal Weapon buddy cop kind of dynamic going on.
Yeah. So the other cop calls his wife, and he's on like the world's biggest cell phone, and he's just talking to his wife, and she's like super pregnant, like about to burst. You know what I mean? And so they're establishing that she's like, got a baby on the way or whatever. And then like when the attempted carjacking happens, you get this weird slow motion gunfight where he gets shot like a gazillion times.
Yeah, they really make a huge deal over it. And the woman's still on the phone with him, so she's listening to him. Right?
Gets shot in slow motion.
Yeah, gets shot, and they really go heavy with the squibs, too. He gets shot in the leg, then in the arm, and then he turns to the guy, and he shoots him in the back of the head, and like his head kind of like,
explodes.
It's a huge blood explosion.
Like a cherry tomato.
And then this guy dies. The cop dies, and then you never hear from the cops again. That's the end of the cops, and we're instead with the cop's wife, and she's the protagonist of the movie.
Yeah. So she's like, they cut forward, I think, like 3 months later, and she's got a baby, and she has like
a baby that looks at least a year old.
Yes. And she's got a friend who's kind of like, oh, honey, you're depressed and you need a man, but let's go antique shopping or something. And they end up going to like the world's dirtiest antique shop where everything there looks cursed. It's almost like that room from Cabin in the Woods, where it's just filled with all kinds of horror things. Like there's a
covered in
shitty
fake
jump
cobwebs.
scare. Yes, it's super dusty. And there's a shitty jump scare of like a ventriloquist dummy that comes to life for like a split second. But anyway, she sees this like Rumpelstiltskin stone or statue or whatever it is, and she's immediately like, oh, I want this. And the shop's owner comes out, and it's the same actress that was the witch at the beginning, I think. Or the woman who like burned Rumpelstiltskin. And she's just don't buy that. Don't buy that. You can't buy that. It's cursed. Even though everything in this store looks cursed. I guess she just buys it anyway.
It's super cursed. Yeah, they get like it because she has to have it. I don't know. And then she puts it on the mantle next to the picture of her dead husband and a picture of her new baby.
Yeah, and that's the only thing on the mantle, so it looks really funny. Like, oh, this is perfect home decor.
Oh, and she cries on it. She cries. Yes. She wishes she's like, I wish my husband didn't die 3 scenes ago. And then a tear falls down onto the rock in the shape of Rumpelstiltskin. And I don't know. That's what brings him back, because she had the wish.
This is where it gets weird, because like the next scene, the husband cop is back. He's alive.
Yeah, he's back.
And she's just super chill about it. She's like, oh, you're back. She doesn't like really gasp or anything. And they just have like a 90s sex scene together. And then he's gone. That's it. And like Rumpelstiltskin shows up.
He's in the shower and she's like, oh, I'm so glad that you're back, honey, whatever. And she goes and she opens the shower curtain and Rumpelstiltskin's in there.
Oh, that's right. That's
how they have him. That's how they have him show up. He's just in the shower.
It's so weird because it's just like, oh, you granted a wish, but I guess it was to see your husband for like 3 hours or something. I don't know.
I guess, but there was no deal. Now he's after the baby and he's kind of running around. One kind of fun thing about the Rumpelstiltskin character that they brought in is that he is basically indestructible. Like, right away, she's like stabbing him in the face with a big old kitchen knife. And then she like takes a broken broom handle and shoves it in his mouth. And he's kind of cool with it. Like he kind of likes the pain or something. It's really odd. But throughout the movie, he gets his arm chopped off. He rips his own head off. He keeps getting burnt alive. And then he just peels the burned skin off and he's like fresh under there. I mean,
he's kind of like a masochist in this movie. It's like he likes like pain or something.
Yeah, kind of like a Hellraiser Cenobite idea, I guess. They don't really delve that deep into it.
Right.
And then
but it is unsettling.
Also at one point gets his arm chopped off, and then the arm flips them off, which is a fun little touch.
Yeah, and so those kind of bits.
I feel like we're making this movie sound way cooler than it is.
Well, yeah. Let's get to
if you just talk about what happens in the movie, it doesn't really capture the experience of watching it because it is very whiplashy.
The next mode, though, is like, remember early on in the movie, one of the first things you see after the cop dies is they're watching this TV show, right? And there's this guy, it's called like Max Talk or something. And there's this like crazy Howard Stern type dude who's talking to a bunch of like topless dancers and he's asking them sleazy questions. And so it's like an extended sequence of them watching the show. And you're kind of like, why is this in the movie? And like maybe how deep, Harvey? Maybe like an hour into the movie, he shows up as a character.
Yeah, he's just like, I guess. OK, so to get into it, there's a sequence where Rumpelstiltskin keeps getting different forms of transportation, basically. Yeah. Like the main character's on the run with the baby in a car, and Rumpelstiltskin comes across a biker, and you have a totally rad 90s scene where he takes over and he's like wearing sunglasses and a bandana and he's like a biker Rumpelstiltskin. And then he slips on some water from a fire hydrant. I don't know, whatever. So then he gets in a semi truck right after that, and now he's chasing them in this big rig. And so then the next thing you see is that inexplicably the woman's car has broken down on the side of the highway in the desert. Right. And that's where we get this Howard Stern type shock jock character. He just happens to be driving by in a truck that has a boat trailer on the back.
Yeah, he's got a boat attached to the back. Yeah, and so he just picks her up. And, you know, it's so jarring to have this character come to life because you've only seen him on a tiny TV screen, you know? Like, so suddenly when he's in the film, it took me like a little bit to be like, oh, that was the guy from the TV show they were watching like a long time ago. Yeah. And now he's like a main character in the movie who's like helping the main character out.
And then it's just, but from there, actually that's where it kind of picks up for me. The movie,
it gets fun
because that character is a little more pushed, and he's like trying for something. Like everyone else is just kind of walking around with like no emotion to some extent, running from Rumplestiltskin. But this guy's a lot of fun. I mean, he's hammy. He's cracking a lot of off-color jokes, kinda, and stuff, doing the shock jock thing. Rumpelstiltskin is chasing them. You know, it basically is like a car chase with the semi-truck and the truck, and he's like ramming them. And then eventually they get out of the truck, and the guy is going to distract Rumpelstiltskin. So he finds a go-kart randomly, and he leads him off away from the baby, using this go-kart. So Rumpelstiltskin chases him in the big rig with the go-kart until he's able to run Rumpelstiltskin off the road in the big rig, which explodes. It's like an oil tanker, and it explodes. Yes. And then and so we see that happen, and then the guy's like, well, I better get out of here. And the go-kart just goes in reverse down this giant hill.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's so you're trying to like watch it go. You're just going like, what is happening? You know, how did he start going backwards? What's going on? And
we rewound that.
I think it's just kind of
to watch it again.
Gag. I don't know.
Yes, but I think here's what I think is important is remember this was co-written by Joe Ruby, who was one of the producers of Wacky Races, the Hanna-Barbera show. If you start thinking about this as a movie that's 50% written by a Hanna-Barbera person, it starts to make more sense in a weird way, where it's like they're just getting in different vehicles. You know, it's so...
Yeah, it is like Wacky Races.
It's so like Wacky Races.
Buggy, they have, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that. But so from there it gets kind of it changes again because a cop notices that, you know, this big rig is on fire, and you know, Rumpelstiltskin comes out of the ashes, peels off his skin, and takes off his head for some reason, and kills the cop.
That's so funny too, because he's just like, here, let's jump ahead, or he says something dumb like that, like, let me help you out here, and he rips off his own head and has his own disembodied head bite the cop. It's so weird.
So then the cop dies, and now our main characters, the shock jock and the woman with the baby, they're both in trouble with the cops. Like the cops, like the local police think that they killed that cop because they don't believe in Rumpelstiltskins. So they get arrested and thrown in jail.
And it's crazy too, because like the main characters, the woman and the shock jock, they immediately come to that conclusion too. Like a second later, they're like, "Oh, we're going to get blamed for this." Killing of a cop.
They kind of plant the seed, but a little too early. It would be more convincing if you saw the cops, you know, the local sheriff or whatever, you know, come to that conclusion naturally, rather than being like, this is totally going to be on our heads.
Yeah, this cop who was mauled with animal-like teeth, like monster teeth, that's totally us.
It must have been them. So they're in prison trying to escape, I guess.
And the baby is separated.
Yeah, the baby's hanging out with the police, and the woman uses her one phone call to call the antique store owner that she bought the Rumpelstiltskin, you know, rock from or whatever. And then Rumpelstiltskin starts coming and he kills all of the police officers, like every single one of them, mostly off screen. A lot of the time they just cut back and like Rumpelstiltskin has just impaled someone with a flagpole. We don't see it, but like they're in the background. And he steals the baby. But then the shock jock and the woman, they break out. They hop into a random car, this convertible. Yes. And then they're driving for a while. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, someone's in the back of the car.
They're snoring. They hear snoring coming in the back of the car.
Back there. Oh, well, they think it's the engine at first. They're like, what's that? The engine's making weird sounds.
Yeah, like a Scooby-Doo joke. You know what I mean?
It is like a Scooby-Doo joke. You're right. Okay, that makes more sense. And then it's like, someone's in the back, and it's the antique store owner. She she went to the police station, I guess, and instead of going in, she just took a nap in the back seat.
She took a break. She's like, oh, it was a long drive to get to the police station. I should fall the fuck asleep under a blanket.
It's good that she's there because she knows how to stop Rumpelstiltskin. You have to do the chant.
The chant. And they're just like, what's the fairy tale?
Yeah.
They're like, what's the chant? We don't know what the chant is.
Yeah, so they don't get to find out what the chant is right away. And Rumpelstiltskin decides that he needs to go to a graveyard. He's got the baby, and I think he's still in he's in another big rig or something. I don't know. He found another car. He's constantly getting into different cars in this movie.
He's a good driver.
So he's in another car with the baby, and he drives to a nearby graveyard, and he's like, I must put it in a loving mother's arm. I must put the baby in a loving mother's arm. So he's dug up a corpse, like opened the casket, and he put the baby in the arms of like a skeleton. And he's like, it's a loving mother.
Yeah, the tombstone says a loving mother on it or something. And it's
I can only assume. You can't even read it. There's not a close-up or anything. But that's sort of the best that we could understand what was happening.
Right.
And so he's trying to do some kind of magic with the baby, and then they finally get to the graveyard, and they realize that the chant is just his name. Yes. They just need to say Rumpelstiltskin 3 times.
3 times. Yeah, like Beetlejuice style.
But they also need to burn him with, what do they call it? The hay? The chaff?
Chaff. His weakness is chaff.
And fire. and so they get a bulldozer, and in I don't know what it's called, but like, I guess the trough of the bulldozer, they fill it with hay and they set it on fire. And the comedian, like a shock jock guy, is chasing Rumpelstiltskin with a bulldozer, a flaming bulldozer, basically.
Yeah, full of hay, flaming hay.
And so Rumpelstiltskin gets set on fire again. I think this is the 3rd time in the movie he gets totally like engulfed in flames. And that puts him out of a commission for like a minute, I guess, so they can regroup. And then Rumpelstiltskin is right again, back with the baby, and so they got to run through the graveyard. All of a sudden, Rumpelstiltskin, I don't know, they run into
he uses like a magic spell or something.
They run into an electric pole at some point. And after that, it like electrifies the graveyard. I don't know. It's really hard to understand what's happening. But okay, with the bulldozer, as they're hitting Rumpelstiltskin, they also hit an electrical pole and sparks shoot off everywhere.
Yes.
And then Rumpelstiltskin, when they're trying to get to him, he conjures up zombies that are electrical. Also,
they're shooting electrical beams like you saw in the trailer. And, again, it's like more cartoon logic where it's just like, okay, so like, I guess like there's an electrical incident.
I think with the electricity, they just did it because they didn't want to do more blood stuff. And they're like, we can just put in some electricity in post. Like, it'll make this stuff look less cheesy.
Oh, boy. I don't know.
That's my guess.
But I mean, the stunt of having them hit the electric pole is kind of expensive. Like, I don't know. I feel like this whole movie is like cartoon logic, where it's just like, oh, and like Frankenstein, the zombies come back to life because they're electrocuted or what. You know, there's like this weird kind of logic to it that's so squishy that only makes sense if you're not thinking about reality.
Rumpelstiltskin's doing it too at the same time. So they kind of got it going both ways. But so then they finally get to Rumpelstiltskin. He wants the baby soul. I don't know why, but you kind of find out he wants the soul. And then they just have to go up to him and they go, Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin, Rumpelstiltskin. And then he turns into a rock again. And they throw the rock into a pond.
A very shallow pond that's maybe like a foot deep at the very edge of it. You know, the worst way to get rid of this extremely scary artifact that, you know, could unleash so much destruction and havoc on the world.
And we get a little banter where the shock jock's like, hey, how come I never get to hold the baby? I want to hold the baby. It doesn't even make sense.
That part's crazy because she's like, well, I guess you're a good person now. You're not an asshole anymore. He's like, yeah, I guess so. Because he helped her, he's no longer a sleazy shock jock. And they're like, well, how about we go see a movie? And she's like, well, nothing with fairy tales. And they're just a couple now?
It's
weird.
Really bizarre.
So
and
weird.
Then it's not even over yet because they have to have a little tag at the end after that where it's like years later and this family's just having a picnic in a lake that doesn't look like it's anywhere near the graveyard. And a little girl finds the Rumpelstiltskin rock and shows her mom and she's like, Mommy, can I keep it? And the mom's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then there's a baby on the mother's lap, and the baby knows. Like, the baby's staring at that Rumpelstiltskin rock like, this is bad news.
Yeah.
And that's the movie there.
It's wild. And, you know, like, it's like I tried to tell a friend about this movie right after watching it, and I felt like I sounded like a crazy person. I'm trying to connect these disparate scenes. Like, you know, even in our little recap here, we left out that, like, the main woman has, like, an extra female friend who shows up for one scene, like, right after she got attacked by Rumpelstiltskin the first time, and her husband came back to life, and she's like, oh, you know what this sounds like to me? Rumpelstiltskin. She, like, pulls out, like, a Grimm's fairy tale book, and she's just like, oh, by the way, his weakness is chaff.
And that's the whole scene. Then they're like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah, she just leaves the movie. She never comes back. It's really baffling, too, to think that, like, the logic it takes to get to, oh, well, Rumpelstiltskin spun straw into gold in the fairy tale. Therefore, chaff is his kryptonite.
I mean, I think that the thinking of this movie was just what kind of cool things can we make this Rumpelstiltskin do? Right. You know, like we can have his arm cut off. We can have him burnt alive. We can have him tear his own head off. Like, I think that's where all of the thought energy went for this.
I think so, yeah.
Because the story is really hard to track. And like we said, it has these phases, you know, sort of what you think you're going to get is almost what you get at first, minus the cop shootout. You know, you're like, okay, there's a mother with a kid and Rumpelstiltskin is after them, and it's kind of like ridiculous slashery in a Leprechaun kind of zone. But then it turns into like a car chase movie, Wacky Races.
Yes.
And then it's like this whole break out of the police station thing, and then it's a zombie like graveyard thing. So it really, you know, at first it's a weird movie because it lost me several times, but overall it's just so crazy and it gives you enough that I gotta give it to the thing. It's entertaining overall, and it's pretty short. You know, you don't have to sit with anything for too long.
One thing I would say is this is a movie you should watch with friends, you know, and like, we just spoiled the whole movie for you, but don't tell your friends what's going to happen. It's kind of fun to see people's reactions to where this goes.
Instead, actually try to tell your friends what happened based off of our recap, because there's no way. I'd be surprised if anyone can hold what we said in their head. None of it makes sense. There's nothing to tie the logic together of anything. Yeah. So I don't feel bad spoiling this movie because it's more of an experience. It's not like there's twists and a story to follow, you know?
Well, a little follow-up on this. For years, both Mark Jones and Max Grodinchik, I'm probably saying his name wrong, they've been talking about making a sequel to this. And even in recent years, they've been saying, if you gave us the same amount of money, we could make a sequel to this. We both want to do it. So there's a very real chance we could get a Rumpelstiltskin 2, like, at some point. It's a looming threat on the horizon.
I don't hold out a lot of hope, because part of the charm of this movie is that it is crazy, but it's that they actually had, I don't know, I wouldn't say money, but they had resources. They have all these scenes in, these car chase scenes. They have huge explosions, gigantic explosions. They have so makeup effects, but it's there. And then they do things like they can knock over a telephone pole. Like, movies now in this budget range would never do that stuff. They'd be like, okay, you can have 2 locations and one of them is like, outside.
It's going to be bad CG. You know what? It's going to be bad CG if they do it. But
you think they're going to do it Asylum style?
I think they would, because it's like, what else can you do?
I mean,
but I don't know. The passion is there.
Gorman, Psycho Gorman style stuff or something.
I haven't seen that.
It's just it's got practical effects and Guar style costuming, makeup stuff. I'm just saying, like, they could do some of that at least. It doesn't have to be Lavalantulas or Sharknado style CG for Rumpelstiltskin, because you really only have to worry about that character. But I do think that, this movie does have a lot of excess involved in a way that you don't really see a lot of horror movies doing now.
And that's part of the fun. You know what I mean? I think that is what makes it interesting. It's the fact that you get so many different crazy things. You get different shootouts. You get all that stuff. Even the electro zombies, as much as it like makes my head spin, I kind of like that. I kind of like the surprise of it. You're like, what's happening now?
Well, at that point, it's just like, give me more,
Right.
Whatever. Throw it all at me. I wouldn't be surprised if Dracula popped out,
Sequel. That he's in the sequel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we rate this? Should we give this a rating with our patented
Does it deserve a rating?
System?
Okay, I guess we have to do it, right?
Yeah. No, I think we need to weigh in here, because that's what people are tuning in for.
So, I guess it's time for best, less, or best, which is our rating system.
That's right.
We decide whether a movie is the best movie of all time, less than the best movie of all time, or a total mess of a film. Just it doesn't hold together. It's totally wackadoodle and it falls apart. And now, that can be good or bad. Yes,
a mess can be good because we love messes. Yeah. And a less can also be good too. Like, maybe it's like not the best movie you've ever seen, but it's pretty good. Or less can be like, I was bored. It's just, it's less.
It's hard to hit the best. I mean, it's got to just be truly enjoyable all the way through, for the most part, at least. Less, a lot of things fall in that category. And then mess, you get the Rooms, you get your Neil Breen movies, but then you also get, I don't know, like Maximum Overdrive or something that's just like, ugh, Slogsville.
Boy, I hope Stephen King isn't listening to this.
Stephen King doesn't even remember shooting that movie. He said he doesn't remember shooting that movie at all. It was all coke fueled. The whole thing.
Does he remember being in Creepshow 2?
Diesel and coke. I don't know if that. I'm not sure about that one. He doesn't remember writing half of his books, though, right?
Yeah. Well, he's written a lot of books. Let's be real.
That's true. I mean, I don't even remember what I did yesterday. So,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't do cocaine. So
he's an accomplished guy.
Maybe he's just blaming it all on the coke, but really he's just aging.
Yeah. Like all of us. I mean, I'm 5,000, so like my memory, I forget stuff all the
anyway,
time.
Back to the reviews. We got to review this thing.
Yes, back to the reviews. We got to review
what are we doing?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'll go first because you're Rumpelstiltskin and you should have the final word about the movie Rumpelstiltskin. I think that this film, I had fun, as I said. I appreciate the effort. It could have been worse. It could have been better. So that's why it's less for me. It's a less.
Okay. Well, I also am going to give it a less because I feel like this is 50% a really fun movie and then maybe like 50% kind of a drag. But the experience of it is so worth it if you want to watch a schlocky movie with your friends, if you want like a party viewing. This is a really good time. And, you know, like I said, it's a Hanna-Barbera style live action movie. Very rarely do you get to see something like that. So this is a less in a positive way for me.
I would say I do kind of rate it over any of the Leprechaun movies I've seen.
Oh, yeah. You know, I haven't seen too many of those, but I might do the same.
Yeah, I mean, they deserve a rewatch at some point, but none of them were as crazy as this one. Maybe they had a little more cash or something, and also they went a little, they went in more directions with the character.
Yes,
I think they stayed a little true to what a leprechaun is, but maybe because Rumplestiltskin is a little less defined or something in pop culture, they decided to, do kind of push the limits of what you expect out of the character of Rumplestiltskin.
It is interesting that they didn't ever find what made him scary. I feel like they're not even really trying to make him menacing in the movie.
No, they're making him a fun
zone.
Character. Yeah. He's like, radical, like Michelangelo in the Ninja Turtles or something too at the same time.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of fun. It's a little bit of a time capsule in that way, as far as the attitude goes. So yeah, I don't know. I guess like Stiltskin here said, as a party watch with a bunch of friends, put it on. Why not? It's not going to offend anyone too much, at least.
Except for me.
Well, yeah, maybe,
it's about me.
Maybe him. Yeah, it does paint him in a rather strange light.
I do not endorse this depiction of me, just to be clear. I did not feel accurately represented.
Oh, wow.
So, but I'm not letting that cloud my judgment about whether or not this is a fun movie to watch, because I do think it's fun.
Yeah, it's definitely comedy over horror, but it's out there. I don't know. It's sort of one of those movies that feels like it was made by a madman in some sense. Mm-hmm. That just got to do whatever the heck they wanted because they had just made Leprechaun, and for some reason that made a ton of money. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was a fun little chat about Rumpelstiltskin. I got to go get back to doing Rumpelstiltskin-y things. I'm tearing your head off in front of police officers and flipping people off with your severed hand. I'm also going to hijack a semi-truck. I'm going to get on a dune buggy. I'm going to take a hang glider and chase a person with it. I'm going to do all the Wacky Races
every
things.
Form of transportation possible.
Right.
Well,
a sea-doo.
We shan't stop you from being a Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin does as Rumpelstiltskin is.
That's right.
And so on. But thanks everyone for watching and listening to Weird Ass Movies. We'll be back next time with another movie. We haven't figured it out yet, but we're flying by the seat of our pants here. So
we're keeping it fresh.
Maybe that's fun. Yeah, we're keeping it fresh, like Rump.
Whatever
like
we're watching, just habitually
that should have had a rap.
Cover.
That should have had a rap. That movie.
Right.
That's the one thing it's lacking. It does have sort of a cool tough guy song at the end, and when he's driving the motorcycle. So that's as close as you get to a '90s rap. But
those songs, they all feel
can't
like
have everything.
They all feel like the royalty-free library songs that they put into the new version of Baywatch that's on streaming platforms. Those super generic songs. They all kind of have that
vibe. It's such a bummer.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, though. I sort of think those songs are hilarious.
Well, they released the soundtrack, I guess, that Terror Vision just did. So if you want to get the soundtrack on vinyl, then more power to you, I guess. You can do it now.
But anyway,
we'll see you next time. Check us out on YouTube. We've got a whole web series. A couple episodes are out, but there's going to be 10 episodes. So there's a story and animation, and you can see where we live. You can see our house.
Yeah, you can see how we met.
Yeah, you can see where I work. All sorts of fun stuff. And there's chuckles to go along with it, too. It's a funny one. So check that out. And check us out on Twitch, where we stream a couple times a week. And until next time, keep it weird.
Yeah, keep your
Isn't
ass
that what they say?
super weird.
Yeah, keep it weird. You know, weird stuff.
Weird
like
ass.
Weird stuff.